Lord Drakkon is one of the most devastating villains in Power Rangers history. This version of Tommy Oliver is an irredeemably sinister, vicious, tyrannical, and sociopathic sadist, ruling over his subjects with a ruthless iron fist, possessing a twisted vision of the world with a fiendish god complex. Today we are going to discuss his personality and what makes him such a fantastic villain. This is not a history of or a backstory video, but a character study. If you would like to see a full history of Lord Drakkon, let me know in the comments down below. Drakkon detests any connection that he has to his alternate reality self, considering him to be a polluted and weak shadow of the powerful image of himself that he has cultivated. His hatred of this connection that he has, no matter how distant, shows that his rage and his contempt spans the multiverse, which paints him as being a truly dark mirror of the man that his alternate and younger self is striving to become. In many ways, Drakkon represents the absolute worst fears that Tommy from the main universe has about himself. Drakkon is calculating, manipulative, and cunning, using his knowledge of the Power Rangers to systematically weaken them and destroy even the command center. He is also a murderous, remorseless, merciless, and horrifically cruel man, as the remains of the command center in his world showed heavy damage, as did all the Rangers' Zords, and even his words to Billy and Tommy about them not staying long in his world implies that he intends to kill them. A flashback revealed that he had actually killed his world's Jason after taking away Jason's White Ranger powers and refusing them with his Green Ranger power, while carrying the fallen Red Ranger's cracked helmet in his hand after morphing into his new fused form. It's also implied he murdered the Billy Cranston of his world when the Blue Ranger shielded Trini from an attack meant for her. In issue 15 he is also shown slaying Alpha 5, Zordon, Ninja, and when still working under Rita as the Green Ranger, decapitating the Blue Centurion. Given his reaction, he feels absolutely zero remorse or any kind of feeling from taking innocent lives. He is also an abusive and heartless leader to his subordinates, as he regularly punishes a simple mistake or failure from his Ranger sentries by stripping them of their powers with a very painful electrocution via a switch on his throne. He then orders the failed sentry to be sent away or even killed, and then bestows their Ranger powers to a more competent soldier. His sense of superiority is clearly connected to his immense power, due to the hybridization of the Green Ranger and White Tiger power coins giving him unparalleled power compared to the other Rangers of considerable might, such as his reality's Jason Scott. However, when he was finally stripped of his powers, he was clearly in a state of shock, if not traumatized by having the source of his powers taken from him. This is due to him having relied on them for so long, to the point of deluding himself into thinking he had reached the pinnacle of invincibility. However, he quickly recovered, and soon resorted to using psychological warfare against his alternate self, displaying a clear and astute understanding of how to demoralize his enemies by targeting their insecurities. This trait and skill may have been something he was tutored by in his world's Rita, who had been prone to tormenting her enemies psychologically repeatedly in the past. Drakkon is also incredibly arrogant, believing that his hybridized powers made him superior to all other Rangers before and after him. His sense of superiority was so great that he voluntarily leaped into a gorge to what he presumably believed to be his death, rather than be shamefully defeated and taken captive by his hated younger counterpart. This arrogance seemed to grow into troubling signs of an insane god complex.
They could have been gods.
As in the live-action promotion for the Shattered Grid comic, Drakkon believes that all Power Rangers aside from himself have squandered their full potential and that he has fulfilled his by becoming a god. Though powerful, his strategic mind and actual fighting prowess paled in comparison to that of his younger self, as when the two were in their base forms, Drakkon did not dare attack Tommy. This was likely due to him being in a state of shock over the loss of his powers, and being rendered entirely human, as well as being comparatively outmatched by his younger self, who was still in his physical prime. This shows that due to his over-reliance on his powers, Drakkon felt quite vulnerable and somewhat weak and cowardly without them. Adding to this is the fact that even when he had his powers restored, he still chose to attack Tommy in an ambush instead of a head-on attack. Of the many disturbing aspects of his psyche, his interactions with the Ranger Slayer Kimberly Hart from his universe may be the most depraved of them all. Having brainwashed her, It's implied that he had maintained a long-term relationship with Kim in this controlled and manipulated state of mind. When her protestations of his murder of his younger self tipped him off to her having been freed from his control, the roiling resentment and hatred from everything he has taken from her comes burning to the surface, and the loathing between the two shows in all its hideous fury. At his core, however, Drakkon's actions were fundamentally motivated by fear and anger of the revelation of his true role in the multiverse. Despite protesting that he was stronger than any of the Power Rangers, he was privately troubled by the fact that in every reality he had seen with the Tommy Oliver, he was the only Tommy Oliver to choose the path of evil, suggesting that he was the anomaly rather than his counterparts. His desire to prove his superiority was reflected in the world he created as he accessed the morphing grid, setting himself up as the hero while all other Rangers were just his servants at best, as though he wanted to prove that he could do everything his counterparts had done. In the final confrontation between himself and the first Tommy Oliver he encountered, Tommy turned Drakkon's psychological manipulation back on itself, informing his other self that he was stronger because he had people he could always rely on, whereas Drakkon would always be alone. But what is it that makes Drakkon such an appealing villain? Is it his awesome costume design? His backstory? The fact that he is everyone's favourite version of Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger, as he could have been? Well, yes, and no. I think the reason we all resonate so much with this villain in the Power Rangers universe is because he is essentially a representation of the dark side in all of us. While most people are inherently good, everyone has a darker side to their personality. It's just human nature. And while never really brought to the surface or acted upon, it's kind of fun and interesting to see someone's darker side brought to life through fiction. And having known Tommy for so many years as an audience member, it's fun to see what would have happened if he had maintained his evil side. Whilst most comic book and fictional villains are normally just inherently evil or have some deep backstory as to why they are evil, it is fun to be able to witness literally two versions of the same character, one truly good and one truly evil. All fans want to know about alternate timelines in their favourite fictional universe, but in this fandom, we get to see this alternate reality but in actual canon, which makes it so much cooler. Okay guys, that is it. I really hope you enjoyed this little character study on my favourite Power Rangers bad guy, Lord Drakkon. Like I said, if you would like to see a full backstory and history of Drakkon, let me know in the comments down below and I would love to get around to it for you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, may the power protect you, and I will see you next time on the 6th Ranger.